Nate Talks, which is quit it. So we're going to obviously be talking about quitting. And we're going to talk about this in frames of parenting, but these are also important skills to practice if you're an adult and things like that too, especially if you hadn't been taught these things when you were younger. See, it's important, especially when we're talking about working with your kids, it's important for your kids to learn how to make their own decisions, but it's most important that they learn how to make the best decisions for themselves, not just making their own decisions. I think a lot more people are cognizant of how important it is for kids to be able to have some autonomy as they grow up so that they can learn to be confident individuals. But I think some of us do take that a little bit too far sometimes and letting our kids make all of their own decisions without guidance, right? And so there is a point where we want to guide our kids to make the best decisions they can for themselves, especially when it involves doing something or quitting something. However, just letting them make the decision without guidance or without clarity from a guide can lead to some really bad habits too. So it's not just about them making decisions for them, it's about us learning to lead them through the decision-making process so that they learn the process of how to make a good decision for themselves. So instead of telling a kid, this is the best decision, so I'm making it for you, or instead of telling them, you got to make your own decision, whatever you want to do, we need to make sure that we are guiding them, allowing them some autonomy in making their decisions, but guiding them to the best decisions and why they're the best decisions. So our last podcast episode was the why factor. We talked about why the question why is so important, and it is very important to teach your kids the why behind your decision making and the way that you make those decisions. This helps model for them how to make solid decisions for themselves in the future.
Yes, and sometimes as parents, I think more now, we want our children to make decisions.
Yeah. And that's good.
We let them lead emotionally with everything. Well, I don't want to. I don't feel like it.
Right.
Okay, as adults, we know that that's not acceptable.
Yeah, as adults, we know you cannot base decisions on emotions all the time. Now, sometimes it's necessary, but we know that we need to step back from our emotions in order to look at something logically to make the best decision. Our kids are not most of them aren't naturally logical. Most of them are very emotional. And so the trick is you have to guide them through how to not make an emotional decision, but rather how to make a logical decision, because we all know that their success, because our success depends on this too. Our success, our happiness, our goals, our dreams, and our lives all require us to face obstacles and challenges in our way while we're doing it, right? We have to learn to overcome those challenges and not just quit every time something gets hard. So we need to make sure that our kids understand this concept as well. Right? It's very important to understand the concept that things are going to be hard and things are going to be challenging. And oftentimes the things that are most worthwhile are on the other side of those challenges and obstacles that they need to overcome. So allowing your kid to always make an emotional decision in the moment and then just being like, are you sure? Are you sure? And then backing them on that decision is not always going to be the best course of action. Now, if it's a small thing, like if it's a toy they want at the store or it's something like that, then sure, they just make their own decision on that sort of thing. And as they get older, they need to be given more autonomy to make their own decisions as well. But before they ever reach the age of 13, in my opinion, they should know how to break things down logically, how to approach a decision logically, and to put their emotions aside on that decision-making process, and how to follow that decision-making process to make a good decision for themselves. Now, is any kid going to be able to do this perfectly by the age of 13? No, of course not. They don't have enough life experience. But I feel like every kid by the age of 13 or 14 needs to at least understand the process and be able to apply it in their lives to do these things. Because like I said, their success, their happiness, their goals, their dreams, their life are all going to depend on these skills, and they're going to depend on their ability to have perseverance and grit. But you don't build perseverance by walking away from something every time it challenges you.
Also, please understand that your 4 to 10-year-olds, if they're playing a game, if they're coloring, if they're playing with friends, are always going to tell you they don't want to do the thing that you need them to do. They're always going to.
Always.
It's because they're engaged in something they believe is fun. And by allowing them to say, no, I don't feel like doing this other thing that's also going to be fun, but not right at this second,
Sweden's watching.
They're going to say no, because their brains are not developed enough to be able to go, I'm having fun now, but I also can go have fun doing this thing too. They can't make that connection.
And there's a better way to approach that, right? Well, no, I don't want to. Of course they don't want to. You say, I understand you don't want to. I don't want to either. But this isn't a want. This is a need. This is a thing that needs to be done regardless of if you want to or not. And so it's going to get done. Now, I always offer a little bit of leeway there, especially the older my son has gotten, to say something like, hey, I'm in the middle of something right this second. Can I finish this before I do that? Yes. Okay, that's not an unreasonable request. And that is allowing your kids to learn how to set boundaries and priorities with you. Thanks for all those Brazilian flags in there. Someone must have watched my capoeira videos. Got a bunch of Brazilian flags. I forgot what I was saying.
Boundaries.
Boundaries, yes. So I'm not a big fan of the, no, you'll do it right now because I said so. I'm more of a fan of saying, okay, you can finish that thing as long as you get it done, this thing done immediately when you finish that. However, if you don't do it, if you forget, this is what the consequence is going to be for that, right? And then have a consequence related to it. If you forget to do this thing I asked you to do, you're going to do it every day for a week. You're going to do it every day for a month, something like that, right? So that's, I mean, there's other things you can use. But what I want to bring up here is that things that are good for your kids are often things that challenge them. This is schoolwork, math, reading, martial arts, physical activity, sports, otherwise. There's always going to be something that challenges them about those things. Now, there's also always going to be times to quit things. A lot of people like to talk about perseverance as never quitting. I don't like using never quitting. I like using never giving up, right? It's a little bit different because there's always going to be times to drop things. So what I always tell my son is never quit on a bad day. Never quit on a day you're struggling, on a day you're having trouble, on a day something is getting difficult for you and you're struggling to grow through it. That is not the day to make a decision about quitting that thing. Instead, wait till you overcome that struggle. Wait till you feel like you're doing well at the thing and then ask yourself if you still want to quit, because that allows you to realize I only wanted to quit because I was upset in the moment, but that was an emotional decision that would not have been the best thing for me. So instead, let's take some time to calm down. Let's put a little more practice into it. Let's get over that thing that's challenging us, and then we can talk about whether quitting is a good thing or not. Mr. Shinobi, I mean, you might think this is nothing. You might think this is unimportant. But to parents listening to this who really care about their kids, they know how important trying to teach them perseverance and grit are, because they are very important to achieving your goals. If you don't have perseverance and grit, you cannot achieve your goals. So when I talk about when it's okay to quit, is I throw out a few reasons out there to my students. So when is an okay time to quit? You guys can put your thoughts in the comments. First thing that pops in the head to me is family. Let's say my dad passed already, but I'm going to use this as an example. Let's say I found out today my dad is in the hospital. Is that a good time to put aside a sport that I'm doing so that I can spend the next few months close to my dad? Absolutely. Absolutely, that is a good reason to quit something. And I don't even call it quitting. You're just letting it go temporarily, right? Because you got something of a higher priority on your plate right now. What's another reason? Oh, well, maybe you're doing good at something. Maybe it's not challenging you enough, and you want to drop that thing for something that's going to challenge you more, for something that you're going to grow more from, for something that's going to be more difficult for you. Absolutely. Give it up. Go try something that's harder for you. Go challenge yourself. That's important. Or higher priorities. I need to let go of this sport that I'm doing right now because I don't have enough time in my day to finish my math homework. Math homework's a higher priority than a sport. So absolutely, take some time off to go handle your math homework. And I know that sounds weird coming from me as a martial arts instructor when someone reaches out and says, my kid's acting up, so I want to take him out of classes. My opinion, that's not a good time to get out of classes because we are here to back you up. But if you tell me my kid's not getting their homework done and they swear to me that they don't have enough time to do it because our lives are too busy, so we need to drop something, do it. Drop it. Because that math is more important than their martial arts. That math is more important than their parkour, more important than their basketball or whatever, soccer, whatever sport they're playing. That math is going to be more important to them. As I just did a post recently that was asking, what is one skill that you think everyone should learn by the time they are 20? And by far, the most resounding answer was financial literacy, right? So math, that is math. So yeah, that applies. And we're going to do another podcast episode about financial literacy one of these days, but that's not what we're talking about right now. But again, don't just make the decision for them. So if your kid comes to you and says, I want to quit. Well, why do you want to quit? Well, because it's really hard and I just don't want to do it anymore. Well, why do you not want to do it anymore? Because I can't do it. Because I can't do it. I'm not good enough, right? That kind of thing. That is the time to walk them through the proper decision-making ability. All right, well, it sounds to me that the reason you want to quit is because you're emotional. You're upset about it, right? You're not having a good time with this, and I can understand that. But how about we give it another month until you see if you can put in enough time to overcome that challenge, and then we'll see how you feel in a month. Now, that is a compromise that allows them to see a better decision-making process. What about just taking a break on that thing? Now, Miss Leela, I am torn on that sort of thing when it comes to taking a break, because the longer the break you take, the less likely you are to come back. It's just that simple. You know how it is. You've been training long enough to know how it is that one day you're like, hey, I just don't feel like going to class tonight, so I'm not going to go. Then the next time it's time to go to class, it's even harder to get yourself to go. So you skip a second time. Then that third time comes around and you've already set that habit of starting to skip. So now that third time, you're just like, yeah, I'll go on Thursday. And if you don't catch yourself at a certain point and go, okay, I have to go back, then that is kind of the first step to quitting, is taking a break. Taking a month-long break, taking a week-long break. I can tell you this, the amount of people that reach out to us a year wanting to take a month-long break, right,
or a season-long break,
is roughly about 50 to 60 students a year that reach out to us on that. Of those 50 students, you want to take a guess at how many come back? 2. 2 out of every 50. About 4% of the students that say they're going to take a break come back after that break. Now, if you extend that out a year and you take students that said they wanted to take a month off, we have many of those students come back a year later. A much higher percentage come back after a year or two, but then they come back with regrets that they quit. They come back in the beginner's class because they're worried about they've lost their skills and all that. And it's no big deal. We accept you back in and do your thing. You got to train. But the longer that break is, the more guilty you're going to feel about it when you come back, and the less likely you are to come back because you feel like you're going to struggle. I have a capoeira person that had trained capoeira with me for 4 years, was really good at it, and this is the process with them. They've been out of it for 4 years now, and they constantly express that they want to get back in, but they don't feel confident enough. They don't feel like they'd be good enough because they're so out of practice. And that's what happens when you take breaks on things. I'm not opposed to it. I'm just saying that breaks often turn into habits, and habits often turn into quitting, and oftentimes for the wrong reasons.
Now, please understand, your situation is unique.
Yeah.
You have an injury.
You're injured. You're not taking a break. You're injured. That's totally different. Being injured is a completely different ballgame. Yeah. So we covered when it's okay to quit, right? It's okay to quit for the right reasons. Just don't quit for the wrong reasons. And I do not let my son quit something unless he can prove to me it's for the right reasons. Just that simple, right? Now, I want to talk about me personally for a minute. This is another thing that's important for parents. Do not get in your kids' way. Do not get in their way. The most common way parents get in their kids' way is they see their kids struggle with something in practice or on the mats or at a tournament or a ball game or something. And so on the ride home, that kid already knows they messed up. They know they made a mistake, and it's already replaying in their head because they already feel bad about it. Especially if their coach already brought it up to them, which I don't agree with. I don't agree with coaching during a game. You coach during practice. So when we're at tournaments, I don't tell my students what they did wrong at the tournament. I wait till the next class to discuss what they did wrong, because then they're over the emotions by that point. I think that's the proper way to coach. Don't coach them when they're emotional like that. Motivate them, encourage them, but don't coach them when they're emotional. But what happens is, coach says, we really need to work on this. You really messed this up in this game. Then they get in the car ride home with you, and you start off with, well, how do you feel like the game went? Well, I saw this mistake you made, and we're going to work on that when you got home, and you did a terrible job of this. Well, now everybody around them is telling them how bad they are at what they just did, and nobody is telling them how good they did at some of the stuff they just did. So now all they're able to think about is that they messed up. So now they start thinking like they suck. Now compound this across 10 or 12 ball games. Compound this across a whole season or a year. It gets to the point that the child starts to feel like they're letting down their parent, that their parent is upset with them because they're struggling at a sport. So they start to feel like the parent doesn't love them or doesn't want them or thinks they suck at something. And so what's the natural progression from that? I'm going to quit this thing because this thing is causing a rift between me and my dad. This thing is causing a rift between me and my mom. So I don't want to do it anymore because I feel like I suck at it. Everyone tells me how bad I am at it. So I just want to quit. And the problem is, if you quit, you don't get better. If you quit, you don't improve. The best students I have in here and the best people on my competition team were never the most talented. They never were. Our best students were never the most talented. You know what happens when a talented person starts classes? They quit within 3 months. Because the first time something is a struggle for them, they quit. Because they're so used to getting everything right off the bat. It's that gifted and talented thing, right? So gifted and talented program started in the 90s when I was in school. I was one of the first people inducted into gifted and talented programs in Oklahoma. Right? There's a problem with that though, because you get inducted into that program and you're given these extra challenges and stuff. And so you get this idea that you're supposed to be good at everything that you do, that everything you try, you should be solid at. And so then you run into something in schoolwork that you're struggling with, differential equations or whatever. You run into something you're having a hard time with. So you refuse to ask for help because you've been conditioned to believe that you're supposed to pick things up naturally, that you're supposed to get good at it. And then in the end, you start to fall apart. You start to fall apart, right? So that's kind of that same sort of mentality that talented people get. So they go to start something, but the first time they're challenged or have a tough time with it, they can't meet that challenge. They have no perseverance and they have no grit. So what we're talking about here is how to establish grit in your kids. And if you think drugs got anything to do with that, John, you could just go ahead and drop off my feed right now and unfollow, unsubscribe. I'd greatly appreciate it.
But, like I've actually talked to parents this morning about both of those things.
Yeah.
About how I don't like teaching the talented kids. I
Nah.
mean, they're great, but
you can't challenge them. The second you challenge them, they cry, they run off, they get mad, they go, I can't do this anymore, and they never show up again.
The kids I like teaching are the ones for the other parent I talked about where they've been out for a little while and came back and parent said, hey, they seem to do okay today, but what things can I talk to them about improving, or what can I, give them advice on?
Learn to smile when you mess up. Learn to smile. Teach your kids to smile when they mess up. Teach your kids it's not a bad thing to fail. It's not a bad thing to make mistakes. Those are learning opportunities.
My advice was they did great. Don't talk to them about improving anything. Tell them that you think they did a great job today and you are so proud of how they did, and ask them if they had fun and encourage them. I'll take care of anything else from class to class. Mm-hmm. I'll help them build that stuff in here.
As coaches, we will correct them.
Yeah.
You encourage them.
Yeah.
You inspire them. We will correct them. We will also inspire them, but they need encouragement and support, and that's what needs to come from you guys. So here's what I mean by don't get in their way. I'm going to talk about my mom for a second. I don't often talk about my mom. She was insane. But I'm going to talk about my mom for a second. My mom got me in a lot of trouble when it came to sports. First off, I loved sports as a kid. I was always the smallest kid on the team, but I always loved playing sports. Now, after my parents had split, I was around 7 years old. I ended up with my mom as my main guardian, right? My parent. So the problem is then she slowly started making me quit everything because she didn't want to mess with it, because she didn't have time for it. I had to quit everything. And not only that, but when I would keep participating in stuff, she would butt in with the coaches. Now, there's nothing wrong with bringing a concern you have up with your coaches. Absolutely. We greatly encourage that. But here's what happened. I was playing basketball. I'd been a starter for many years. Got a new coach as I moved up to varsity. I got to move up to varsity a year early, which meant I wasn't going to start, but I was on varsity. In one of the practices leading up to our first games, I tried to shoot through a screen and roll and got my arm broken. Okay? That happened. Took a while to recover. Once I recovered and was playing again, there went several games where I wasn't allowed to play at all, even though I was fully recovered. Now, I had handled this with my coach myself. I had discussed it with my coach. He was just nervous that I was going to get injured again, and he just wanted to give me some time, to pick things back up before I actually started playing much again. Then my mom butted in. started throwing a fit at the coach about how he's going to play my son, he's going to do this, and he's going to do that, which built more conflict with my coach. You know what that ended up causing? My coach cut me from the team completely the next year. Cut me from the team completely. When I went in tears asking him why I got cut from the team, he kind of explained, well, you're the smallest person on the team. I worry you're going to get hurt. And to be honest, I don't want your mom chewing my backside out every time you don't play in a game. And that got me kicked off a team. So this is another thing I mean by don't get in their way. When your kid's in an activity, yes, you can speak to their coaches about concerns you have. You could absolutely get with their coaches on plans on what they need to work on or whatever else, but don't get in their way. Meaning guide your kid to talk to the coaches. Guide your kid to express their concerns to the coaches. Guide your kid to ask the coaches questions, because this also often a coach-kid relationship is the first time a kid has sort of a adult-style relationship with someone that's not in the family, right? So this is a good chance to guide and help your kid figure out how to handle conflict, how to resolve conflict, how to handle issues and concerns on their own. So it's a good time to help your kid figure out. If your kid's like, oh, my coach was so mean to me today, I'm so upset, my coach said this, my coach said that, my coach said I'm terrible at this. Okay, well, this is the time to tell your kid, all right, well, then it sounds like you need to have a conversation with your coach. So go to your coach and ask them what you need to do. Ask them how to do this. Ask them what you need to do to get to the position you're trying to get. Explain to them how to tell their coaches what their goals are. Because if a coach knows what their goals are, the coach's job gets a whole lot easier, because they can help them figure out that coach. Now, advocate for your kids, especially, see you later, Leela, advocate for your kids, especially if safety is an issue. So if a coach is, or at a tournament or a referee, an umpire is causing something to happen that is extremely dangerous outside of the normal boundaries of the sport, that could seriously get somebody hurt, absolutely step in. Step in and advocate for your kid. We do this on our tournament team all the time when we have judges that aren't following the rules correctly. We will advocate for our kids, and my parents on the team, they will do the same thing. So advocate for them, absolutely. But if your kid is having a conflict or struggle with their sport or with their coach, try to guide them to navigate the situation themselves. This is a wonderful learning opportunity for them, and how to handle conflict and how to speak to authority respectably, right? Or respectfully. Mm-hmm. So it's a good opportunity. But if you're always stepping in for your kid, well, my kid never gets to play, so I'm going to go talk to the coach. Well, my kid never gets this opportunity, so I'm going to talk to the coach. My kid never gets to do this drill, so I'm going to talk to the coach. No, that's not your time to talk to the coach. That's your time to help your kid talk to the coach, to help your kid figure out how to handle those kind of conflicts. It's very important. Guide them in how to approach it, but don't do that for them unless safety is the major factor. Thank you, Lynn. I appreciate that positive comment. Yeah, we try to talk about everything from parenting, and I don't get parenting right or nothing like that, but I've been working with kids for over 20 years. So, I mean, I got a few tricks up my sleeve, and we talk about psychology, all kinds of things. And we try to keep it positive. Appreciate you, Lynn. I really appreciate that comment. Sorry, I know you started to say something.
I was going to say that I will get kicked out of a tournament advocating for one of my kids.
I've been kicked out of a tournament advocating for my kids. I have had judges at tournaments cuss me out loudly in front of a whole tournament because of advocating for the safety of my kids. Now, I'm not saying I do this because I don't like a judge's call. If I don't like a judge's call, I keep my mouth shut and go, well, that was a crappy call, but anyone could have made that mistake. What I'm talking about is some kid has 50 pounds on one of my kids that's competing, and said kid that's 50 pounds heavier than my kid is swinging for the fences as hard as he can, and that it's going to give my kid a concussion. I'm going to step in and stop that match. I'm going to step in and stop it. The rules say I can't. I don't care. I will step in and stop it. Will I get kicked out? Yeah. But so what? I'm advocating for the safety of one of my students.
And that's one of the rules that I don't like about tournaments. Technically, the competitors are supposed to advocate for themselves, but I'm sorry, in the middle of a match...
We're talking about 7, 6, 7, 8-year-old kids here.
It's really hard, even up into 10, 12.
Even the teenagers struggle to advocate for themselves because they respect the judge, so they don't want to be seen as complaining.
Yeah, and they They get caught up in the moment and they don't want to be told that they weren't trying hard enough or they were just being babies.
Right.
And so for me as an adult, it is my job to advocate for my kids because they don't always know when they're in a dangerous situation.
Right. For example, groin kicks are not allowed in most martial arts tournaments. Obviously, they're effective, but this is a sport, so they make that a rule so that everybody has to use like flashier, fancier things. So if I see a kid throwing groin kicks at my kid and lifting him off the ground, and my kid's holding himself like he's in real pain or has been knocked down, and the judges are acting like this is just normal and allowed, I will jump up and stop that match because that's a safety issue and it's not even following the rules of the tournament. That being said, when we spar in our regular classes, we don't follow tournament rules. We follow street rules. There are no rules other than watch out for the safety of your partner, watch out for your own safety, and try new things and learn new things. But outside of that, my sparring, when we do sparring in my class, anything goes really, but there's still that sort of gentleman's agreement that if I throw a groin kick, I'm not going to make contact with it. Yeah, no. I'm just going to throw it and miss a little bit and be kind of like, I had you there, right?
Or do an inside leg kick.
Or throw an inside leg kick instead and be like, hey, that could have been a groin kick just as easily, right? So, there are safe ways to train. So my point I'm trying to get to is, as a parent, advocate for them, but don't get in their way. Instead, use these chances as opportunities to guide your kids into how to handle conflict, how to handle authority, how to approach authority. Because believe me, these skills are important. Haven't you ever had to approach your boss with a struggle? Haven't you ever had to approach your boss with a problem? You got to know how to do that right. And maybe you're nervous about it. Maybe you're anxious about it because you're afraid you're going to get in trouble. Maybe it's a problem you caused, but you still have to bring it up to your supervisor. Wouldn't it be nice if you'd had the practice at doing that from the time you were 7 or 8 years old, so that when you're in your 20s and have to do that, it's not as difficult. You know how to handle it. You know how to do it respectfully. You know how to admit your mistakes, things like that, right? So it's a good chance for that kind of thing. But back to it, and so I say quit it. Quit letting your kids make all of their own decisions, but at the same time, don't make all their decisions for them. You have to learn that it's important for them to build autonomy as they grow, so that by the time they're 14, 15, 16, you can pretty much trust them to make good decisions for themselves. And that is important. But it's also important to guide them through the process to get there, which means I'm not just going to let my kid make all their decisions for themselves, but I'm not going to make all the decisions for them either. If it's something that doesn't matter too much, it's not that important, it's not something that's good for them, I will let them know the consequences their decision might carry and then let them do it. I had this happen with my son. I don't feel good. I don't want to get my math homework today. I really don't feel up to it. Okay, bud, well, that math homework's important and it's due tomorrow. If you don't get it done by tomorrow, your grade is going to drop and you're going to have issues and you're going to have find time to make that up. But hey, your decision. If you don't want to do it, you got to live with the consequences. And then, of course, if he gets mad at the consequences, hey, man, I told you what would happen if you didn't take care of your business, if you didn't take care of responsibilities. And then I'll tell him, look, I run a business. What happens if I don't take care of my responsibilities? Well, the business goes broke. The business goes under. I have to be in here every single day, making sure that they have everything they need to run classes, that they have all the training they need and all the knowledge they need and all the equipment they need. I need to make sure the bills are paid and all those kind of things, right? So there's some things I'll let him make decisions on his own, but then there are other things that he will want to make a decision, and I will kind of guide him with a compromise. I'll say, look, I understand that you emotionally want to make this decision, but I think we should talk about it when you're less emotional, and I think you should try to give it another month or give it another try or give it another whatever to make sure that you overcome this challenge, because I think you're just making this decision because you're struggling. I think you're just making this decision because it's hard. And that's not a good reason to give up on something. That's not a good reason to quit something. So I'm not going to say you have to stay with it forever, but I'm going to say you have to stay with it long enough until you overcome your challenge and you're not feeling upset about it anymore. Then let's discuss if you still want to make that decision.
And we also have to, as parents, quit letting our kids stop doing things because we don't want to deal with their emotions. Sure, is your kid going to throw a fit when you want to take them to go do this thing that you have to do? Sure.
Are they going to throw a fit when they don't get the ice cream they want? And when you bring them into a sport, are they going to throw a fit the first time they fall? The first time something weird happens they weren't expecting. Sure, they're going to get emotional. We deal with kids being emotional all the time. Getting emotional is part of training because training helps you build emotional resilience. But in order to do that, you're going to go through phases where you feel some pretty sharp emotions: anxiety, fear, dread, all kinds of things, sadness, pain. And you learn to build up how to work through those things in what we do. But oftentimes we do have parents that come up and they're like, well, my kid got emotional in class a couple times last week and I don't want to deal with it, so we're just going to pull him out. But you do realize that you told me when you signed up for this class that you wanted your kid to build grit. You wanted to build perseverance. You wanted them to be disciplined. You wanted them to make good decisions for themselves. You wanted them to learn emotional regulation. Well, they're not going to learn emotional regulation without feeling strong emotions. It's part of the process. So then don't turn around and tell me you're quitting because your kid got emotional. Well, yeah, that's going to happen. Instead, guide them through the emotion. Because if you run away from things that make your kid emotional, then when they're 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, they will have no idea how to handle their own emotions. They will have no idea how to handle themselves. They'll have no self-control, no emotional regulation. These are things that have to be taught. They don't happen naturally. So you have to guide them through those emotions. If your child gets upset, well, I got hit harder than I thought. Okay, let's check you out. Let's make sure you're fine. Does anything hurt? Are you okay? All right, physically you're okay. I understand you're scared and I understand you're upset and you're crying because you're scared right now. But do you want to be the type of person that stops or quits stuff just because you're afraid of it? Or do you have a hero that you like that is very brave and you'd like to be like them? You want to be like that brave hero you have? Be like Superman, Batman, whatever it is, Goku? Then you're going to have to get back out there and try it again. So my one rule in our classes is if a kid does end up in tears, they do not leave in tears. We get them calmed down. We guide them through their emotion. We help them understand what they're feeling. We help them process what they're feeling. But we do not let them leave until they get back on the floor and try it one more time. The thing that got them upset, we make them try it at least one more time before they leave. Because if you leave on a bad note, if you quit working on something on a bad note, you're going to be less likely to try it again. So if you have, like I got parkour kids, let's say one of them had a bad experience trying to backflip, almost landed on their heads, they're afraid, they're in tears. So I'm going to say, I understand you're scared. I would be scared too. I understand that hurt. I understand you just realized how this can go bad for you. And that's really, really scary. But I also feel like you're brave, or at least that you want to be brave, right? You want to be courageous. You want people to see you that way. Okay, then I'm not letting you leave here until you give me 3 more good attempts, until you're happy with the progress you've made on that backflip. Then you can leave. And then I'll make sure that they do their flips until they feel more comfortable with it, and then they can leave. That makes sure that they're going to feel more confident next time they come in and work on it. I'm sorry, you had something you wanted to say a while back.
Well, because it was still part of what I was saying.
Right.
But and I hear this a lot more with my 4 to 6 year olds than I do some of my older ones. Well, we're just going to quit because they just don't want to come to class.
Yeah.
They always, when I say it's time to go, they never want to come to class. Okay, well, what were they doing?
Well, before you get into that, I'll let you say that part. But there's something really important about this to caveat here. A lot of these people she's talking about, they don't just say their kids don't want to come. What they tell us is it's a struggle to get our kids to come. They seem to have fun and enjoy being with their friends while they're there. They love the classes, but for some reason, we can't get them to want to come. This is how you fix it.
And I just don't want to fight with them. That's what I hear. I don't want to fight with them because I want them to enjoy it. Okay, one, you have to understand that your 4 to 8 year olds they're impulsive.
And they're never going to enjoy something 100% of the time. Think of something you love to do. Do you enjoy it 100% of the time?
I play video games. I don't enjoy it.
I play video games. Don't you ever you'd be loving a video game. Don't you ever get to a point that frustrates you sometimes? That you get a little angry about it? Yeah.
And we've been doing this for a long time. We were doing leg kicks today. Did I enjoy that? No, because I have an EpiPen bruise from our CPR training last night. I didn't enjoy that, but I enjoy the overall experience.
Yeah, and I've been using video games to show my son how to live with perseverance and grit for a long time, because I don't let him just quit playing a game because he hit a point he can't do it. I make sure that he forces himself to get through that part before he decides if he's going to quit that game.
Yeah. So how we deal with it, how we suggest that you deal with this, and this has worked. It works. We use it on our own kid. We've given this advice for other kids. It works as long as you have the perseverance to stick with it. If your child is engaged in playing a video game, playing with their friends, playing with their toys,
sitting around on their phone, if we
whatever.
talk about teens,
Yes.
whatever, if they're doing something that they are relaxing doing and that they are enjoying doing, then no matter how much they enjoy another thing, they're not going to want to do that thing right now because they're already doing something they enjoy. Why do they want to trade something they enjoy for a different thing they enjoy? They're already doing this. Remember, kids and teens are impulsive. That means they are more pulled toward the thing in front of them right now than they are pulled towards long-term goals or a thing you have to go to do.
Their brain is not developed enough to think in long term.
Even an hour from now.
Yep, doesn't happen. They can't actually think in terms of more than a week until they're 25 or 26.
Well, I say that now. Some kids, there are kids like our son has laid out like a 4-year plan for some stuff, and he's capable. I mean, some kids are capable, but it's difficult for them. It's not natural for them. They have to train themselves to do that.
Yes.
It's not a natural thing for kids to do.
So, advice that we have put into our own practice: get them doing something that is a need.
Or something they don't want to do. So a chore.
Yeah. Yes. Like, okay, my son is playing with his magnetiles and it's his favorite thing to do. All right, dude, hey, it's time to go pick up the kitchen. We got to do dishes. This is the thing that we need to do right now.
This has to be done, and I really need my helper here. I really need your help for it. And then you get them doing that, right? Then 10 or 20 minutes into that, it's time to go to class or go to practice. They're doing dishes, and now you go, you know what? We're close enough to being done. We can stop here in order to go to class. Do you want to go to class? Yes. Because they don't want to do the dishes. They don't want to be mopping the floor. So yeah, they would much rather go to class than mow the lawn, right?
Or fold laundry.
Or fold laundry, right. Yeah. So get them, so if you know you want to take your kid to a sporting practice or a class, then 30 minutes before you need to leave, get them doing something that needs done, a chore, something they don't necessarily enjoy, but you can get them started helping with you on. And then when you say, all right, it's time to go to class, they're going to be like, oh yeah, nice, time to get out of here, time to be done. Yes. Think about it. Has your kid ever been upset to leave school at the end of the day? Because, well, I just having so much fun with my math homework that I don't want to leave. Has that ever happened? Ever? Okay, then get them doing homework 30 minutes before, because any excuse to stop doing homework will make them happy. So get them doing math homework 30 minutes before it's time to go, 20 minutes before, 10 minutes before it's time to go. And then when it's time to go, then you hit them, like, don't tell them about the class. Just say, hey, you need to get your math homework done. You got to sit down and do this. And then 10 minutes later, it's time to leave. You go, you know what? You can pause that math homework. We'll get it done later. It's time to go to class. They are going to be excited to get up and go to class now. Yeah. But if you were letting them scroll on their phone or play video games or play games in the yard or something like that, they're not going to want to give up their fun they're having now for the fun they're going to have when they come into class. Because they're already having fun. Why do I want to do something else to have fun? But if you get them doing something they don't really enjoy, then the second you tell them they get to leave to go do something else, they're going to leave. They're going to be ready to go. They will be ready faster. I also give this advice. If you have kids that every time you go to leave the house, it takes you like 10, 20 minutes to get everybody to get their shoes on and everything they need and get in the car, this will stop that. So my son was that way. We had a hard time getting him to go anywhere. He was about 5, I think, when we started doing this. We started using this trick on him when he was 5. And let me tell you, that changed in a heartbeat. All of a sudden, he could be ready and out the door in under 2 minutes. Nowadays, I can wake him up and he will be ready to leave in under 10 minutes of being woke up.
I mean, he's not human.
Not like fully functioning, but he will be clothed and ready to go within 10 minutes of waking up, right? But this is the trick we used. We used the trick of making sure that he was doing something less enjoyable so that when it was time to go, and I do this for grocery shopping. I need to go grocery shopping. I have to take my 7-year-old with me. Well, if I'm playing a game with my 7-year-old, they're not going to want to stop to go grocery shopping. So instead, all right, bud, well, we're going to sit and do this other thing that you're not big on. We're going to do some chores. We're going to sweep the floor or something. Then we get started sweeping the floor, and he gets excited when he gets surprised 10 minutes later by me going, oh, bud, I forgot. I got to go to the grocery store. Would you run to the grocery store with me? All of a sudden, yep. Do I have to finish the floor first? No, you can just put the broom away and come with me. Awesome. They're excited. They're ready to get because they don't want to sweep the floor no more.
At the end of the day, this boils down to, as parents, as adults, as mentors, as coaches, if we want our kids to build perseverance and grit, we have to show them exactly what we mean and set them up for success. Not do it for them, not rescue them all the time.
And describe it and show them why. Show them the why behind the whole process of decision making and doing the right thing. But yeah, that's something we don't run into it all that often, but it is probably the most common quit reason is my kids have a blast when they're there. I love the classes. They love the classes. I love the character development. They've made some great friends. They love training with their friends, but I always have to argue with them to get out the door. Well, what were they doing right before you left? Well, as soon as they got home, they started watching a TV show.
I'm sorry, no kid wants to get up from Bluey. That's
your problem right there. They don't want to get up from their TV show to go do something. But if they're washing dishes, they're more than happy to stop washing dishes to go do that thing. They get a little older, hit your teens with the cleaning the toilet. Hit your teens with the cleaning the toilet. Because cleaning the toilet properly doesn't take 10 minutes. But they're going to hate it. They're going to moan. They're going to be going through it. They're going to be disgusted. And then the second they are almost done or start to finish is when you go, all right, finish up. We got to get out of here so you can be done with that. They get excited. Teenagers get excited to get to stop cleaning the toilet, right? Hit them with the nasty jobs. Hit them with whatever you can get them to do. That is a phenomenal trick. Toothbrush and the baseboards, right? But whatever it is, that will stop that right there. And it doesn't require that much work. It just requires a little bit of psychological understanding and influence. This is all about influence, right? Somebody is always going to be happy to do something if that thing they're going to do is more fun or better than the thing they're already doing. If the thing they're already doing is just as fun as what you want them to do, they're not going to want to stop what they're doing because of inertia, right? Psychologically, we have inertia too. Once we start down a path of doing something, it's difficult for us to change to a different road. So once I sit down and start scrolling through my phone or start doing something on my phone, it's difficult for me to switch gears and go do something else. Same for you, same for your kids. When you sit down to watch a movie, is it real easy for you to turn the movie? It's a good movie. Is it real easy for you to turn it off 35 minutes through so that you can run to the store? Probably not. You wait till the end of the movie, right? Same principle here. And this is why you have trouble with your kids going to sports. Now, all of these things are meant to help you build perseverance and grit in your kids. The ability to not give up just because it's challenging, to not give up just because it's hard. But part of that requires you helping them make good decisions for themselves, guiding them through those decisions. And if they're about to make a bad decision or a emotional decision, stopping them and creating some kind of compromise or hard line where you're like, hey, I'm not going to let you make that decision, and here's why. This other decision is going to be better for you, so we are making that decision, right? And that's what helps them build perseverance, grit, and discipline. But if every time your kids come home, they get on the TV, then they don't want to come to class, and it's a struggle to get them to come to class. So a month later, you're just like, all right, I'm quitting because I don't want to force them to come to class. I don't want to go through this fight. Okay, then we'll give you this trick. Try this trick for a month. Try it. See if it works. If it works, great. If it doesn't, go ahead and quit. But you know what you're telling your kids when you let them quit for that reason. You're telling them that all they have to do is throw a fit and say, I don't want to do it, and they won't have to. Now, what happens when they become teenagers or adults in a job, and they get told something they need to do, and they tell their boss, I'm not doing it because I don't want to.
Bye.
What do you think's about to happen? See what I'm saying? And a lot of people like to say, oh, these young adults are not employable. The ones that aren't employable, it's the parents' fault. It's the parents' fault, 100%. If your young adult is not employable, that's your fault. You didn't train them to be employable. You didn't train them to be valuable. You didn't train them to have discipline or perseverance or grit. These are things that have to be trained. They do not come naturally. A lot of people like pain tolerance. Pain tolerance is something that you train. It doesn't always come naturally, right? Emotional regulation is something you train. It doesn't just come naturally.
Just like I know people hate it when I compare children to like dogs, but it's true. A dog doesn't recall just because you want it to.
No.
A dog doesn't recall because they want to. They recall or do any of the other things you need them to do obedience-wise because you showed perseverance and you trained them and motivated them and inspired them to
showed
do
them
the things,
why and made it fun and gave them treats and blah.
all the things. You give your kids gummy bears for potty training, M&Ms, whatever.
All right. Last thing. So if that trick doesn't work for you, getting them to, do something they don't want to do to get them to come, have you ever thought about rewarding when they make good decisions? And it doesn't have to be some crazy award. It doesn't have to be anything that costs money. It could be getting ice cream. I know that costs money, but the reward could be, hey, if you go to class tonight and you do a great job, when we get back, I'll wrestle with you for a while. I'll play with you for a while. I'll play Pokemon with you for a while. I'll play video games with you for a while. These are all rewards you can give them for making the right decision. Well, if you do make the right decision and go to class for me tonight, then you can stay up an extra 15 minutes. You can have a little extra dessert. Whatever, right? It could be literally anything. Just a reward that they're going to go, hey, that would be fun. I'd like to do that.
Yeah. And in the end, what does your kid want more than anything?
Your
time.
Your attention.
And it's not even your attention, it's your affirmation.
Your affirmation.
They want your affirmation.
They want to be reaffirmed by you.
They want to know that you care about not just what they do, but about them. And so no better reward is...
There's no better reward than the offer of spending time doing something with your kid that you guys don't get to do very often, right? And that's another thing we're going to get into in another podcast about how to establish a good relationship with your teens. Though honestly, that starts at 5 years old. And part of that is learning to take a little bit of time out of your week to be involved in something they're interested in. You don't like video games, but they love it. Couldn't you sit and watch them play and talk to them about it for a while once a week? Couldn't you play with them a little bit, even if you stink at it? Because that's also showing an example to them of how to be bad at something and still have fun, right? All kinds of life lessons built into these moments, but all too often we get parents that are just like, they essentially say, I don't want to deal with my kids, so we are not going to do this. And to me, that's really sad. You're telling me you don't want to teach your kids, you don't want to guide your kids, you don't want to help give the hard lessons to your kids, you don't want to give them these important lessons, so you're going to take them out of an activity that also gives them those important lessons, and you're going to establish a habit that tells them that all they have to do is whine about it and they won't have to do it, right? That's the thing. These are all things you have to train with your kids, right? If you're going to be a parent, it is your responsibility to guide your kids to be the best adults you can help them be. That means don't use the excuse of, well, I don't want to deal with my kids about this, so we're not doing it. Especially if that thing is a good thing for them. Would you do that with homework? When they throw a fit and whine about not wanting to do their math, would you just go, well, I don't want to deal with you guys, so go back to your room. You don't have to do your math homework. Is that how you would handle that? Because if you treat sports the same way, it gives the same message, right? So if I treat sports that way and say, well, I don't want to deal with you on it, so we're not doing it anymore, it gives the same message as if you did that with a math homework or reading assignment.
Or even music.
Or even music.
Anything that you know is good for them. Brushing their teeth. Sure, I don't want to listen to my kid complain about having to brush his teeth, right? But
yeah. That said, there are good reasons to quit things. One of the good reasons I brought up earlier, if you guys watch back on the video on that, was to quit something for something better. What I mean by that is quit one activity that's not challenging you anymore for an activity that is challenging you, right? Quit one activity that you're getting bored with to try something new that you're passionate about and interested in. That is a reasonable reason to quit something.
Especially if you quit on a high note.
Yeah, just don't quit because you're having a hard time or you're struggling. Wait till you have a high note, then quit, move on to something else, right? And I've always let my son treat everything that way. You know what's really crazy about my son? I never wanted to force him to do martial arts, but he was born the year we started the studio. Conceived the year we started the studio. But I never wanted him to feel forced to do this, so I never forced him to do it. Matter of fact, many times over the years, I've went to him and said, hey, man, you can quit if you want. You don't have to do class. You don't have to train. You don't have to do these things. But this discipline has been so well established in him that he refuses. He will get upset. if I suggest that he takes off for a class, if I suggest that he takes a week off, if I suggest that he gives up on something for a little while, he will give me the dirtiest look ever. He will growl and groan at me and be like, I'm not doing that. And he'll keep doing the thing he's doing until he gets it.
And he's been that way since he was
little.
He decided when he was just almost 4 that he finally wanted to actually do class.
Yeah.
We never forced him. If he started a class and he lasted 5 minutes,
and then left the class, that was fine.
He was under 4. It was fine. But he never missed a class. He's broken his arm twice. And you know what he was mad about? That he was going to miss class that day to go get a stupid cast on.
Yeah, and then insisted on, even if he wasn't allowed to do the drills, still insisted on being in class with his cast on, cheering everybody else on. Because those were his people. Those were his friends. And so he wanted to be there to cheer him on. Now, we're not saying this to brag about our own son. We are saying this to tell you the effectiveness of what we're talking about from a personal experience level. So we know you want your kids to learn discipline, perseverance, and grit. So listen back to this video very carefully. Take every piece of advice out of it you can. But we're going to jump off here. So until we see you guys again, be the best teammates you can be, and be the best at being you.